All right, we're back out here working on the boat in the lean-to. Gonna be getting ready to start working on the rear deck. So we're gonna get all this covered up, move the seats back, clear out all these spider webs that are here. And we're gonna start by probably getting rid of this bar here. And we're gonna move this back to about here or so, because I think that's where the back of the seats are gonna be. Because we're going to have a bulkhead basically to go straight in front of the jet ski hull all the way across, and it's going to have a cutout on both sides where the seats are going to sit down about that much lower than the deck height, so whenever they're folded down, this whole back area you'll be able to walk across the whole thing and you won't have to step over the seats. So I'm going to get all this stuff cleaned out of the back of the boat, get the drill out here and drill these rivets out so we can get this bar out of the way, figure out where it needs to sit. All right, got the bar moved from behind here. Those rivets really hold on really good. So got this sitting right here. I think that's about where it needs to go. If I just use one of these old seats, oops, as a reference. Of course, it'll sit higher than that, but it'll sit about like that. That gives us room on both sides of the motor for it. I will have to probably relocate the computer on the motor because it's the highest part. So I'll probably just unbolt it and move it down a little ways so it's not in the way. And then we can get this bar kind of where I think it needs to go. So we'll run a bar there and then probably one more midway from here to the transom. And then we're going to run a bar across the top of the transom. It's going to be flush here, go all the way across. And we're going to raise the whole transom up a little bit. So there'll be a little step down onto this. And then once we get our cross supports in, we're going to put a couple runners in this way, probably one on either side of the motor, and that'll give us opportunities to put lids on here that'll open so we can have storage still in the back of the boat, but still be solid so we can walk across the whole thing. And I'm gonna get started by unbolting this, setting it out of the way for now, and then try to get this piece. We can probably just reuse this one, flatten out our edges because it kind of mangled them coming out, but flatten those edges back out and re-rivet it in back here and just start moving our way back. Okay, I got the bar sitting, I think, where it's going to go. This will be the front, so this is where the seat will lean against that. I moved the computer for now. I just moved it from being bolted here to just sliding it down and using the top two bolts. I might have to move it again depending on if the seat will fit between the side of the boat and that, because I don't want to be tearing that up. So if not, I'll unbolt it, and I've got enough wire, I should be able to swing it up to the front somewhere and bolt it on in the front of the boat or front of the motor, just to keep it out of the way, because I don't want anything to, if this deck flexed or anything, I don't want it to hit the computer because that'd probably be bad. So we're going to have one bar here, one bar halfway back, and then there will be runners that go all the way from front to the back on either side of the motor, and then there will be down bars to give it support so you'll be able to walk across all of this in the back. So I'm going to get one more of these cut out and get it set kind of where it's going to go, and then get started attaching them in here. it's getting kind of dark, so I shut the time lapse off. I've got both the bars in partially. The front one, I've got half the rivets in. I still got to do this one on the front or on the back, and then that tab on the front of that one. This one I've got one rivet in each side on the back to hold it. I'm gonna go tomorrow and get smaller rivets because the only ones I have are 1/2 inch long, and I really need some like 1/4 inch long ones because this is 1/8 inch and that's angle is 1/8 inch, and they don't really work as well whenever they're way too long. They don't break off cleanly all the time, and I got little pokey things sticking out. So that'll get us the basic idea of where those are going to go. I've got more angles cut out to put on the front side of this one. I'm going to go ahead and put one rivet in each piece. So I've got them. I'm not going to record it because it's almost dark out here because I'm not in the shop, I'm in the lean-to, but we'll give you an update once we get both of those attached. Okay, it's the next day. Got both bars riveted in solid. I went and got some shorter rivets. For this to this is only an 1/8 of an or 1/4 of an inch, so I got some 1/4 inch thick or long rivets so that they break off a lot cleaner, because these other rivets were 1/2 inch long, which I have to have on the gunnel because of the thickness of the cap plus the thickness of the boat plus the thickness of the angle makes it too thick. But got those two in there. Now I'm going to measure, get 2 pieces cut to go on either side of the motor, and get that piece made up, and then we'll also get a piece cut to go on the transom back here, which this piece will be a little trickier, but we'll see what we can figure out. Okay, so getting ready to measure these here. They're 14.5 inches. Surprisingly, it's the same on both sides. Normally I don't get that lucky. So I'm gonna go cut 2 pieces, 14.5. We're gonna have one right on this side of the motor, one right on this side of the motor. Got the 2 pieces that I just cut sitting, I spaced them about 18 inches off the side, and I did that so that they would, when I put my down bar that goes down to the bottom of the boat, it'll be to the outside of the fiberglass in the jet ski hole. So this side here, I'll have probably 1 bar towards the back and 1 towards the middle, or towards the front one, which will be kind of the middle of this deck, but that'll get the load distributed. This one, have one at the front, and then probably end up having to run one down from over here just to clear the water box and everything. Not a big deal. So I'm going to get me some more little pieces cut out, some more of these, so I can go to town riveting those in. Going to put at least one on either side, like maybe one there and one there, and if that's not solid enough, I'll just put one on every corner. So get started on that now. All right, so I was going to get these pieces here riveted in. I think that was the last thing I said I was going to do. I didn't do that yet because I thought before I start closing this in and making it harder to work on, I'm going to get the exhaust figured out, because the exhaust needs to sit below that so that the deck can be flat. So I'm going to work on that before I put any more bars in the way of getting the pipe out. I'm going to start by taking this hose off down here, and I'm just going to cut it off shorter and see if that'll pull it down lower. Hopefully that'll do it. If not, I'll cut some out maybe here and put an aluminum coupler or an aluminum piece on the inside and clamp it on both sides. But we'll get to that now. Got that piece cut off, as you saw. Put it back on. Doesn't fit quite as good down here, but it's on there definitely far enough you could have clamp on it. It's up to about there in that, but it doesn't quite fit because this has put this in a bind, and you could probably run it like that, but that hose is almost completely collapsed. So I think my next step I'm going to probably try to cut this off right about here, and then I'm going to cut this off right about here, get rid of this whole bend, And I don't have any more aluminum. I thought I had more 2.5 inch, but I don't. But I do have a piece of 2.5 inch stainless that I can put in here and clamp on. Shouldn't have any issues with it rusting or anything. But that's gonna be my next step. I'm gonna cut that off there and cut this off here, and then try to rotate. Cut this off here and then try to rotate this around so it's kind of a straight shot through there, and it should get me where I need to be. All right, got these pieces cut in. I got a straight piece of pipe going up there, little rubber elbow going down to another rubber elbow. I just kept cutting it and it kept getting worse and worse, and then it finally fit. So I'm gonna go to the store, get some hose clamps, get that locked in, and then we'll get back to working on the rear deck. All right, got all my clamps on all the way down. That keeps the exhaust below the deck, and it's still plenty high because it's up to about here on the boat. So if we're down that far in the water, we're going to have to start having some problems. All right, not sure if I showed it, but I took the piece of plywood out that was down here. It was really in there, so I'm going to put some 2x6s down just so I'll have some solid support for the down bars that are coming off this. And I don't want them to be quite as solid, because if I ever have to take them out, I don't want to have to use a pry bar and maybe damage the bottom of the boat. So I got some just window caulking stuff just to hold it so it doesn't slide back and forth or in and out. And then the down bars will be screwed to it so that they can't really move anywhere. So I got that all cleaned up with acetone, letting it dry off. I'm gonna go get me a caulking gun, put this in there, put some on the back of the wood, put it in there, and then set something heavy on it so it can set up. Okay, sorry about the noise. He's grinding on something in the shop over there, but got the two boards in, glued down. Batteries on there just to hold them down so they will hopefully set up. I'll show you on this side here. There's a little bit of an old weld here where the seat was originally, so I just notched the bottoms of them so that they'd sit over those flush without having to grind a bunch on the bottom of the boat. So I'm going to cut some boards for this side, and I'm going to do the same thing, get those set in there, so then we can move on with our deck structure. We're going to try to get this whole piece finished in the back, and then we'll work on the complex part, which will be making the seat parts so that this will float up out of the way so you can still get to the engine to work on it if you have to. Alright, got the boards in down here, glued down. They've had plenty of time to set up, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to measure, see how tall they need to be. About 17 inches and 16.5 inches. So we'll get two of each of those cut out. Well, probably just do this side first, because this side I'll have to do something a little tricky because of the water box being in the way. So we'll do two 17s and a 16.5. Get those in there, try to get these bars nice and square, and then we'll have some support for our rear deck. Okay, I've got my bar squared up. I marked it where it's square, so then these are going to sit in here. I'm going to drill holes through both pieces so I can rivet it in, and then do the same thing back here with the shorter piece, and we should have this side pretty well done. I can do the front one on that side, and then I got to figure out something on the back. Okay, got these pieces riveted in. It's really solid. You definitely could stand on that now. This is super strong. So we're going to do the same thing over here. Gonna get my square, make sure that this bar is sitting in here pretty straight. And then I've got one piece of angle cut already for this side. Well, I thought I did. Apparently this side's shorter. But then I'm going to do something else on the back. I might just come over here and tie in on the outside of the water box and just put a little piece to hold this up in the back. Should be fine, but we'll see when we get there. Alright, got this side done. Because of the water box, I just riveted this piece on here, and then I've got another little L bracket here. So real solid. I walked around up there, it doesn't really move at all. Next thing I'm going to work on is this very back bar, which I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to do that. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to even with this part of the transom, because these parts do come back a little bit. So I'm going to come back here, and then I'm going to cut a notch in the top of this so that piece can sit up underneath there. Try to get it at exactly the same height as these two, because these two are pretty straight, and that way we'll have to do some fancy cutting with the wood around here, but the whole deck will be kind of the same height. It's the only way I know to do that without cutting these off, and I don't really want to do that. Okay, we got this piece cut out. It's probably a little bit long, but I figured it's easier to trim it later. Got these marked here. That should keep us pretty much flush with the back of the transom here. So got it marked on both sides. Gonna go get the cutoff wheel, cut this out here, fold that up, try to slide that piece right underneath it, and we'll see how that goes. All right, we got our last bar in there. It's pretty straight enough. I'm gonna take my hammer and I'm gonna tap these flaps down and rivet them to this bar just to keep it from moving. And then we'll probably come by with one or two uprights from there to there just to make this pretty solid, which is already pretty solid. And then we'll figure out what we're gonna do for tying in from here to that bar, which will be determined by what we need to keep access to. Like, we don't want to cover this up, and we want to probably be able to still get to the trim motor and all that stuff. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Get that done, and the rear deck will be almost finished. We got our support just clamped in for now, but we're going to put 2 rivets on each end of that. That will brace this piece up, plus eventually there will also be a piece of wood attached to this that will give it some support, but not a lot. But it's pretty solid as is. I think the one in the middle will be plenty to hold it, so we'll go ahead and get those drilled and riveted in. All right, got the main deck structure framed in. Got these all riveted in on here. This thing is super solid. Walked around up there, doesn't move at all. That's probably going to do it for this video because I'm running out of time and I'm running out of supplies. The next video will be the tricky part, which will be making the recessed areas right here where the seats are going to go. And if I can figure it out, I'm going to make them so they will flip up out of the way so you can still get to the motor. And if not, the middle will at least flip up so you can check the oil and change spark plugs and all that good stuff. But that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.